My girlfriend told me she needed to meet her ex for a quick catch-up. Then she added one more detail like it was nothing. I was not coming. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I did not ask why. I just nodded like I had been handed a schedule change at work. She read my calm as permission. It was late Sunday morning, the kind of quiet that makes an apartment feel like a cocoon. The blinds were half open, and a strip of sunlight cut across the rug, turning floating dust into tiny sparks. The espresso machine hissed and clicked, filling the kitchen with that warm, roasted smell that always made me feel like the day was on my side. My phone was in my hand, thumb scrolling headlines, feet on the edge of the coffee table, my brain half asleep in the comfort of routine. Maya moved through the room with a purpose that did not belong to a lazy weekend. She was not in leggings and one of my old hoodies. She was in a fitted black skirt and a cream blouse that hugged her like it had been tailored. Her hair was smooth and styled, not the messy bun she wore when she did not care. She had that clean makeup look that takes time, the one that says, "I want to be seen up close." I watched her from the couch, the way you watch a door that is not supposed to open. I said, "You look nice," keeping my voice light. She did not face me. She checked herself in the mirror by the entryway, adjusting an earring, tapping her lip like she was fixing a tiny flaw only she could see. She said she was just grabbing coffee with someone. I asked who, still casual, still trying to pretend my chest had not tightened. She glanced down at her phone and smiled at whatever was on the screen. That smile was small, private, and too practiced. She said it was Tyler, her ex. He was in town for a couple days. Tyler was not a random name in a list of old boyfriends. Tyler was a story that had come up too many times, always with a little heat behind it. The guy with family money and a love for expensive opinions. The guy who posted gym selfies and charity gala photos like he was auditioning for a life. The guy she described as toxic and insecure, obsessed with appearances, obsessed with winning. The guy she said she outgrew. My first instinct was to stand, offer to join, make it normal. A united front. I did not mind her having a past. I minded being treated like I was optional in her present. I said, "Okay, so we are meeting him." That was the moment when most couples settle a boundary without drama. "Sure, for an hour, just coffee, come with me, it will be fine." Something like that. Instead, she finally looked at me. There was no apology in her expression. No softness, no request. Just certainty. She said they were only catching up. Then she paused like she wanted the words to land exactly where they would hurt. And she said, "You are not coming." The espresso smell turned sharp in my nose. The sunlight on the rug felt colder. For a second, the apartment did not feel like home. It felt like a waiting room where I was not being called. You are not coming, not invited, not included, not welcome. It was not about coffee. It was not about an old flame. It was a line drawn in permanent marker. A little demonstration of power. A reminder that she could step into a part of her life and lock the door behind her, and I was expected to smile and stay on the couch. My hand went to my pocket on instinct, and my fingers touched the folded receipt I had put there the night before. The paper had sharp creases from me checking it twice like a kid looking at a map to a treasure. I had been carrying it all morning, waiting for the right moment. Because last night I had picked up something that represented the next chapter. It was not a ring. I had learned early that Maya hated predictable gestures. She loved the idea of something custom, something with a story, something that felt like it was only ours. So I had worked overtime for months and ordered a custom-made engagement band from a small jeweler 2 neighborhoods away. Not flashy, not huge. A clean platinum band with a small set of stones placed in a pattern that matched a constellation we once watched on a camping trip. She had talked about that night like it was proof the universe was generous. The deposit alone was painful. 6 months of saving. 6 months of passing on trips, eating at home, saying no to things I wanted so I could say yes to a future I believed in. The band was finished. waiting in a box, waiting for a moment in that strip of sunlight on the rug, waiting for me to kneel and ask her to be my wife. And she was telling me I was not coming to coffee. In one heartbeat, I saw the road ahead if I swallowed it. I saw the accusation of controlling if I protested. I saw the slow erosion if I stayed quiet. I saw myself shrinking, apologizing for wanting basic respect. I saw arguments that would start with small things and end with me questioning my own sanity. I saw the way a relationship dies when one person decides the other is lucky to be included at all. The tiny alarm in my gut stopped ringing and became a single clear tone, the kind that cuts through noise and leaves only truth. I looked at her, and something inside me clicked into place like a lock. I said understood, not sarcastic, not bitter, just understood. A statement that I had heard her terms and accepted what they meant. Her eyes flickered, like she had expected a fight, and instead found a blank wall. For half a second, she looked annoyed, almost disappointed that she could not perform the role of the confident woman putting her insecure boyfriend in his place. Then she grabbed her purse and her coat, checked her reflection one last time, and walked out. The latch clicked, and it sounded like the end of a story I'd been reading for too long. For a few seconds, I stood there in the quiet. The espresso machine was off. The room hummed with nothing. Her perfume lingered like a ghost that had not realized it was dead. I breathed in, and the breath came out steady. Understood was not just a word. It was a key turning. My first move was not emotional. It was practical. I unfolded the receipt and stared at the name of the jeweler, the order number, the deposit amount. I picked up my phone and called. When the receptionist answered, I gave her my name and the order number. I told her I needed to cancel the order and refund the deposit back to my card. She asked if everything was all right in that careful voice people use when they do not want to step into your sadness. I said the engagement was off. No explanation, no apology, just a fact. She said she was sorry and that the refund would take a few business days. I thanked her and ended the call. I set the receipt on the kitchen counter, right in the center like a marker on a map, a monument to a future that had been quietly removed from the schedule. Then I opened the closet and pulled out my largest duffel and a set of boxes I kept flattened behind the vacuum. I did not pace. I did not sit down. I did not stare at photos. I packed like someone conducting an extraction. I started with my side of the closet. Shirts, jeans, jackets, shoes, everything that belonged to me without debate. I ignored her clothes. I did not touch her jewelry tray. I did not pause at the hoodie she stole from me that still smelled like her hair. I refused to let nostalgia negotiate for her. I packed my laptop, my chargers, my headphones, my passport, my watch, the little things that make you feel like yourself in a strange place. I left the shared stuff, the blender we bought together, the decorative pillows she insisted matched the aesthetic, the framed prints we hung because she liked the vibe. Those were artifacts of a life that had just been proven optional. Every item I placed into a bag felt like a weight coming off my lungs. Not because I did not love her, but because I could finally admit what love without respect turns into. It turns into a job where you never get promoted. When I was loading the last box into the trunk, I paused with my hands on the cardboard and listened. Not to the street, not to the neighbors, to myself. There is a specific kind of quiet that happens when you stop bargaining with reality. It is not numbness. It is not coldness. It is the moment your mind stops asking how to make something work and starts asking what it costs you to keep trying. The truth was I had been paying for Maya's confidence with my own. It never started as something obvious. It was small, almost charming at first. She would tease me for being too steady, too serious, too careful. She would call herself spontaneous and call me safe. I laughed because I thought it meant she trusted me. Over time, the jokes became a pattern. My plans were boring. My concerns were dramatic. My boundaries were insecurity. And I kept adjusting because I loved her, because I wanted to be the kind of man who could handle a strong woman. That phrase, strong woman, had been her favorite shield. Anything that made her accountable became an attack on her strength. Anything that asked her to consider my feelings became me trying to limit her. It was genius, really, because it trained me to stay quiet. I started choosing peace over clarity, and I told myself that was maturity. I remembered a night a month earlier when we were at a friend's birthday dinner. A guy at the table joked that Maya could talk her way out of a parking ticket. Maya laughed, leaned into me, and said I liked her because she kept me on my toes. Everyone laughed like it was cute. But on the drive home, she said something I had not forgotten. She said I should be grateful she chose someone normal like me. She said it like a compliment. I let it slide because I wanted the night to stay warm. Now, standing by my car with my life in boxes, I finally let the meaning land where it belonged. Normal like me meant manageable. Safe meant controllable. And you are not coming meant I am allowed to do what I want and you are allowed to accept it. I closed the trunk and the sound felt like punctuation. Within an hour, my car was loaded. Trunk full. Backseat full. The apartment already felt different, like the walls had shifted to accommodate her ego. I did a final walkthrough and noticed something that made my stomach twist in a clean, clear way. There was a small whiteboard on the fridge where we wrote grocery lists and weekend plans. Last week it said mini road trip, Friday night movie, call mom. In the corner, in her handwriting, were two words I had not noticed before. Coffee, Tyler. She had planned it ahead of time. She had placed it in our shared space like it belonged there, like my life was a calendar she could edit without asking. The realization did not hurt the way betrayal usually hurts. It steadied me. It confirmed I was not leaving over one sentence. I was leaving over a mindset. I took my toiletries from the bathroom, grabbed my keys, and walked out without looking back. In the car, I sat for a moment with the engine off and opened my phone to her contact photo. It was a picture of her laughing at a beach bonfire last summer, hair blown across her face, eyes bright. I stared at it long enough to feel the old warmth try to crawl back into my chest. Then I blocked her number. My thumb hovered for a second because the human brain loves familiar pain. Then I hit confirm. I started the engine and drove. I did not have a dramatic destination. I checked into an anonymous hotel on the edge of downtown, the kind with neutral art and carpets that always look slightly damp. Perfect. No memories, no echoes. I turned my phone face down, ordered room service I barely tasted, and opened my laptop to search for apartments. Not in our neighborhood. Not close enough to run into her at the grocery store. Somewhere new enough that my brain would stop expecting to see her shoes by the door. The quiet in that room was not empty. It was calm. It felt like stepping out of a noisy bar and realizing you can finally hear your own thoughts. She did not stay quiet. The first message came through on an unknown number 2 days later. It said, "We need to talk. You are overreacting. It was just coffee." The words were predictable, like a script she had practiced with friends who only ever told her she was right. I deleted it. Later that night, another unknown number called. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice sounded unsteady, soaked in a kind of desperation that felt rehearsed. She said she was sorry. She said it was stupid. She said Tyler meant nothing and he was gone, and she did not know why she did it. Then she said the apartment was so quiet and she felt alone. I saved the voicemail, not because I wanted to replay her pain, because I wanted proof of the pattern. First dismissal, then minimization, then begging. She was not sorry for excluding me. She was sorry she had lost the benefit of me staying. I blocked that number too. The next message came with venom. It said, "Fine, run away. You were always insecure. You cannot handle a real woman. You will come back." Reading it felt like seeing the true face of a mask she had been holding all year. My chest loosened. It was a gift, because it killed any remaining doubt. Then the flying monkey arrived. Her friend Danielle called, voice sweet like syrup, using my first name like we were on the same team. She said Maya was a wreck. She said Maya was spiraling. She said a real man would forgive her mistake. I listened without interrupting, staring at a floor plan on my laptop like it was more interesting than the manipulation in my ear. When she paused for breath, I said, "Danielle, do not call me again." She started to protest, saying I was being cruel, saying people make mistakes, saying Maya loved me. I said love does not exclude and then demand loyalty. I hung up and blocked her too. By the end of the week, there was nothing left to hear. An email slipped through a day later from an address I did not recognize. She had created a new one to bypass the blocks. She said she went to the jeweler. She said she found out I canceled the custom band the day she left for coffee. She said that was when she realized I was already gone while she was still sitting across from Tyler. She said Tyler tried to turn the catch-up into something physical, like he wanted to win one last time. And when she refused, he vanished. She said she had thrown away something real for an ego hit from a man who did not even respect her. She said she understood now and she had to live with it. I read it once, then I deleted it. I did not need her understanding. I did not need her confession. Her consequences were not my project. 2 months passed. In that time, I signed a lease on a small place with tall windows and no memories in the corners. I built new routines. I found a coffee shop where nobody knew her name. I reconnected with friends I had slowly neglected because relationships have a way of making your world smaller if you let them. I stopped waking up expecting her next to me. I started sleeping like my body finally trusted the night again. A week after I moved into my new place, I took one more step that surprised even me. I changed my emergency contact. It sounds small, almost petty, but it was the final thread. Maya had been my emergency contact on forms at work, on the dentist's paperwork, on the lease. It was a quiet kind of intimacy. The assumption that if something happened, she would be the first call. That assumption no longer made sense. I replaced her with my brother. Then I updated every password that had ever lived in the same orbit as our relationship. Streaming accounts, utilities, the door code at the gym, anything that had the potential to pull her back into my space. It was not revenge. It was cleanup. I also deleted the playlist we made together. Not because I was angry at the songs, because I did not want music to ambush me in the grocery store aisle and drag me into the past. The strange thing was how quickly my nervous system started to relax. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes. I stopped imagining explanations for her behavior. I stopped rehearsing arguments in my head. I began to notice something I had not felt in a long time. Lightness. On a Friday evening, I met 2 old friends at a bar called the Lantern Room. The kind of place with warm lighting, cheap darts, and the smell of fries in the air. We sat in a booth near the back, laughing too loud, talking about nothing important. The kind of laughter that feels like proof you survived something. I noticed her the moment she walked in, because my brain still had a file on her. Maya stepped through the door and paused like she was bracing herself. Danielle was with her, hovering close like a guard dog pretending to be a friend. Maya looked smaller. Not physically, just in presence. Her clothes were still nice, but they hung differently, like she had been living on stress and pride instead of real food. Her eyes scanned the room with a hungry hope that made my stomach go still. When she spotted me, her expression lit up with something desperate, like she had just found water in a desert. I turned back to my friend and kept listening to his story about a disastrous first date. I did not perform anger. I did not perform bitterness. I simply kept existing. A shadow fell over the table a minute later. I looked up and saw her standing there, hands clenched, trying to control the shake in her fingers. Danielle lingered behind her, watching me like I was the villain in a story she wanted to rewrite. Maya said my name softly. She said I looked good. She said she had been trying to find a way to talk to me. I gave her a small, polite nod, the kind you give a neighbor you recognize but do not know. I asked how she was doing. The question seemed to crack something in her because it was so normal, so neutral, no hidden hook, no invitation back into my life. She swallowed and admitted not great. She said she missed me. She said what she did was the stupidest thing she had ever done. She said Tyler meant nothing. She said I meant everything. She waited for me to soften. She waited for me to rescue her from the consequences she created. I did not. I let the silence sit for a moment because silence tells the truth faster than speeches. My friends watched, confused, sensing the gravity without knowing the backstory. Maya's eyes started to shine with panic, like she could feel the door closing and she could not reach the handle. She asked if that was it. After everything. After what we built. I set my glass down on the coaster, the sound small but final. I said that was a different life. I said I had made my peace. I said I was happy in this one. And I said she was not in it. Her face tightened like she had been slapped, not by cruelty, but by reality. For a long moment she stood there, absorbing the only punishment that truly works on someone who craves control. Irrelevance. Danielle glared at me like she wanted to throw words, but even she seemed unsure what script to use when the target refuses to play. Maya's shoulders sagged, the hope drained out of her expression. She turned and walked away without another word. I watched her go with the same detached calm I would have watched a stranger leave the bar. Then I turned back to my friends, and my friend asked quietly who that was. I said no one, and I meant it. The darts game got louder. Someone laughed at the bar. The night kept moving forward, which is what nights do when they are not trapped in old stories. Later that night, after she walked away from our table, my friend nudged me and said she looked like she had seen a ghost. I shrugged and kept smiling because my smile was real. I did not feel victorious. I felt clean. On the drive home, I thought about the word people love to use in situations like this. Closure. Most of the time, it is an excuse to reopen a door that should stay shut. Real closure is quiet. It is the moment you stop needing the other person to understand. It is the moment you do not need a final conversation to validate what you already know. Maya would probably tell her friends I blindsided her. She would probably say I could not handle her independence. She would probably paint me as the villain because villains make it easier to avoid accountability. But the facts would stay stubborn. She asked for a private reunion with the man who once held her heart, and she decided I was not allowed to exist in that room. She chose power over partnership, and I chose myself. That is the part nobody teaches you, but every man eventually learns if he is paying attention. You do not need a dramatic betrayal to leave. You only need a clear moment when you realize you are being trained to accept less than you deserve. The next morning I woke up, brewed coffee in my own kitchen, and watched the sun stretch across my new floor. The light hit different when it belonged to a life built on self-respect. If you've ever been put outside the circle in your own relationship, do not talk yourself into accepting it. Respect is not a bonus feature. It is the base model. If this story hit home, subscribe and hit like